Hey folks, Eric here from TOURNA-MIX. I wanted to give a quick tutorial today on the SONNOX Drum Gate, which I've had for, I don't know, maybe 6 months now. And I haven't had the chance to use it as much as I would have liked to, just because I haven't been mixing a lot of real drums in the last 6 months or so. But I am familiar enough with the plugin, and I wanted to just show it in action today. These red tracks here are drums, and these are the drums for September's bonus song. I'm really excited about this song. Let's just have a quick listen to these drums here. All right, so well-recorded drums. Those are just very loosely balanced. Let's hear the kick and solo. So you can hear some bleed, normal. There's the snare, right? And the toms. So we've got some bleed to take care of here. Now, of course, gating isn't essential. In fact, to be honest, I may not normally gate these drums, especially if I was in a rush. But this new plugin from SONNOX, this guy right here, newish plugin in the last year, I think, is something really, really neat. So we're going to take a look at that now. So why don't we start with toms? It can take a lot of time to manually edit out toms. If you want a gated tom sound, and you go through manually and, take out all the empty space, then you have to do all your crossfades, etc. It can be a bit annoying. I've done that many times, and it kind of drains me. So let's take a look at, well, first let's just actually hear this, this track. This guy here is a tom. Let's hear it. Right. So we can hear lots of bleed, which is typical. You can see this transient here, for example, is basically at the same level as the tom. So this is a snare. So with a traditional gate, we'd probably have a tricky time setting our threshold correctly. It might work for these little parts, but then it would probably let that through. So we'd have to automate. And, gating can be a huge pain in the butt. So let's take a look at the SONNOX drum gate. This gate is very unique in that it has a sort of an owl feature to it here, and I'll show that in a second. So these little icons, it's very neat. If I select tom, which makes sense since we're on a tom track, what happens now is the plugin is very, very sensitive to toms and nothing else. So even if something crosses over the threshold, which is this line here, it won't open the gate unless it's a tom. Let me show you what I mean. Let me just lengthen my loop here a bit. So for example, this here is a snare hit. Let's watch what happens. Okay, these yellow spikes here, anything that is yellow as opposed to white is above the threshold, and yet we're not hearing anything, right? Until we get here, which is the tom. Let's wait. Amazing. Now look, if I select snare instead, watch what happens. Right? Now it's letting through the snare hits because it's being more sensitive to snares. So this is what makes this plugin unique. It's very, very smart, and it can save you a ton of time automating your threshold, etc. Check it out. Let me shorten my length, my cycle length here. I've got it set to tom. And there we go, we've gated it. Now you can hear a slight little bit of bleed in the background. That's because our gain reduction, this is like the range function, isn't all the way down. Let me set it all the way down. Now let's listen. And now we have absolutely no bleed, if that's what you wanted. We might come back to that in a minute. Sometimes a little bit of bleed's okay. But what you're probably hearing now is that it's a very short decay, like the tom sounds very gated. So we can do whatever we want to fix that. So this here is our decay time. If I move it as a unit, it's going to affect the full frequency range. So let me push it way up for a second. Right, so there we hear more of the tom ringing out. Let's push it all the way up. Right, now we can hear a clear decay where we get like a second or two, and we can hear some cymbals and snare. Let me bring that all the way down again. So this is where we're starting. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Really, really gated sound. Now what's also kind of neat about this plugin is there's a frequency sensitive decay section here. So this guy here, if I move this up, it's only going to allow the frequency range, but in this case between 40 hertz and 400 hertz to decay, but not the high end. So this kind of effectively takes out some of the cymbals. And so for a tom, let's just let this run. I'm going to actually shorten this even more and let it kind of loop over and over. There we go. So you see, by pushing up just this section of the decay, we're allowing the fundamental of the tom to ring out. And this is all adjustable. You know, if I wanted to make it even tighter, I could, you know, and let's hear it now. Keep in mind, this is where we started. Right? It's pretty amazing. And we also have it hard gated right now. Probably what I do is push this. Let's just go back to where it was even. Let's hear this. Right? And if I lengthen this a little bit and push this up, if you want a little bit of the range control pushed back up so that we have kind of a little bit of bleed coming through. Right? As opposed to, right, that's serious. So it's up to you. I'd probably put it like there. Awesome. So there we have it. That's on the toms. Now I spent, 5 minutes showing you that, but realistically, if I go back to default here and just set this up from scratch, the only thing I really have to do is hit tom and probably lengthen up the fundamental decay, maybe the overall decay a bit. And we're done. It literally takes that long. Now, some of us have different tastes on how you want your toms gated and whatever else, but that's probably where I'd leave it. Now let me try to find an example of when the gate fails, and I'll show you what I mean by that and how you can easily correct it. I'll be right back. So I found a perfect example of what I was talking about here. So this selected track is the tom that we're working on, but if we look at the next tom down here, we see that it's playing. Okay, and what's happening is the gate is seeing that as a tom on this track, even though if I were to take the gate on mute here and play this. All right, that is not this tom. That is the other toms. You can see 1, 2, 3 hits here on the other 2 tom tracks that are bleeding through. And because we have this one set to tom, it's picking it up. So let me go back to the detection section here. What's super neat about this is if you have false triggers like that, it's very, very easy to correct. All you have to do in this case is click Removed Matched, okay? And then add a little cycle range around the problem area like this, and then play it. Okay, and now you can see this little 4 has lit up, so it's detected 4 things that it's now going to be sensitive to. Now if I play it, now the problem's solved. So it's just a little bit quicker than maybe automating. And to be honest, this doesn't happen very often, but that is a good example of how you can easily correct that. And then the opposite, which I won't show, but you can also do the opposite. If it's not picking something up that you want it to, like say a little ghost note or something, you would click this guy and cycle over that range, and then it would add it back in. So it's very, very neat, very, very quick. Love this thing. All right, I'm not going to show the other 2 tom tracks because it'd be a very similar workflow. Let's maybe take a look at the snare here. Let's just go here. So here's the snare raw. All right, there's a bit of kick bleed, but nothing too crazy. So let me just go to like a default state here. So this is here we go. So we're going to click snare. Let's see what happens. There we go. Now what's interesting, because we've set it to snare, if I lower the threshold, let's see what happens. Let's put it all the way down. Right, even at the lowest volume, lowest level, it's still not picking up those kick hits. It's just that smart. So I would probably bring it up here. But we don't have, we don't have to come right up to the edge like with some gates where you're like, oh, if I go any lower, it's going to pick up bleed. You can just kind of set it anywhere you want. It's like the easiest gating of all time. Let's take a look at the decay section here. All right, so because right now it's pretty hard gated. Let's hear it again. All right, so you can see with the visual display here that a lot of the energy is kind of around here. So if we want to bring out more body on the snare, we could sort of move our range here, or our decay range, frequency decay range, if you will. Let's play around with that. See, that's what's so cool about this is, and we would have to listen in context to really know if that's what we want, but we're bringing out just the body. Let's keep playing around with that. compared to, right? Now, if we want to bring the overall decay up, that feels pretty good. Could even bring back some of the bleed. Right, compared to this. If you try to boost the high end of your snare on this, you're going to get a lot of that cymbal bleed. But this, wow, that's great. I'm going to leave it there for now. All right, let's go take a look at the kick. So here's the raw kick. Okay, let's bring up the plugin and just turn it on and hit kick. Okay, and again, if I bring the threshold down, it's just incapable of hearing that or recognizing that snare, even though the snare is pretty, you can hear it. It's pretty prominent. Let's go to the decay. All right, I don't want to tweak with that forever. Let's just listen to the drums here. I'm going to turn all the gates off. So here's where we started. Right, and then what I would do, that's pretty awesome. What I would do is then, fine tune things. Like, for example, if I turn off just the snare, you can hear it kind of ringing out. You may want that. So if I turn it back on, right, you lose all of that kind of sizzly decay. So this would be like an artistic choice at this point. Like, first of all, do I even want a gate, right? You don't have to gate. Second of all, if I do want a gate, do I like this sound? Very tight. Or maybe I want to bring the overall decay up again a bit. See if that even helps. So here it is off. It's kind of cool. Let's keep bringing the decay up. It's kind of neat. Again, we started here. Now, a lot of that change, I'll admit, is from the toms, because the toms is just pure bleed. Like if we mute this, that's the toms, and then we're essentially getting rid of this. Right, we're just taking all that crap out. So, but even the kick and snare are making a big difference. We get a way tighter sound. And, once you've gated a sound, you can then do fun things like add transient designers to bring back some sustain, but it's going to be sustain without the bleed, stuff like that. So there's all sorts of creative ways you can do this. But I just think this thing's amazing. It's just so fun. I actually kind of look forward to gating now. I love playing with this thing. I never really liked gates before, and now I've got this one. All right, I guess I'll leave it there. That's the SONNOX Drum Gate. Huge thanks again to SONNOX for sponsoring our monthly contest. You guys are awesome. You've made a great product, and you're also generous. Love it. And to all my TOURNA-MIX members, thank you for being here. We'll see you soon.